At this exact moment, while you watch this video, something extraordinary is happening at the edges of our solar system. Something that astronomers fear revealing completely, because you may not be ready for the truth. NASA has just revealed a discovery that challenges everything we know about physics, astronomy, and even life itself. And perhaps most importantly, it challenges the idea that we are alone. We're talking about 3 Atlas, an interstellar visitor that came from another star system. And according to scientists, it doesn't behave like ice, rock, or conventional metal. It behaves like something alive, like something that possesses intelligence. And the most disturbing of all is that within this mysterious object, there is something that pulses, something that reacts, something that seems to be aware of the environment around it, as if it were watching us while we finally learn to see it. Imagine for a moment that you're holding in your hands an object that crossed billions of kilometers through the cosmic void, surviving unimaginable conditions, carrying secrets of civilizations that may have existed long before Earth even existed. Now, imagine that this object is approaching the sun at this moment, and that with each second that passes, it reveals more of its mystery. The most advanced telescopes of mankind are pointed at it. The James Webb, the Hubble, the Very Large Telescope. And what they are seeing is leaving the brightest scientists in the world speechless. Some say it's the biggest enigma of modern astrophysics. Others whisper, away from the microphones, that it may be the proof we were waiting for. The proof that we are not alone. Please, before you continue, press the like button, because what you're going to learn deserves to be seen by more people. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any updates about 3 Atlas and space curiosities. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? Because when the truth finally comes to light, I want to know where the awakened ones were when it began. When 3 Atlas was first spotted, astronomers assumed it was just another fragment of deep space, a rock, a frozen traveler, a remnant left by the formation of another star system. But as NASA's instruments began to study it, strange things started to appear, things that simply shouldn't be there. Its composition didn't match any comet we had ever seen before. Its brightness was inconsistent with the known laws of thermal reflection. And its trajectory, well, it changed in ways no natural object should change. The James Webb Space Telescope, capable of seeing further than any other instrument before it, was directed at 3 Atlas as it approached the sun. The data that came back left scientists speechless. The surface of 3 Atlas was not solid. It was in layers. Below the icy crust, there was something unexpected. A dense, radiant core emitting faint electromagnetic pulses. Not heat, not light, but something in between. Imagine peeling layers off an ancient artifact only to discover that it emits a hum. That was exactly what NASA was dealing with at that moment. As one NASA researcher put it, we expected dust and ice, not a source of energy. This core, as they are calling it, emits faint rhythmic waves of energy every few hours, measured in frequencies so precise they cannot be random. Some compare it to a heartbeat. Others call it a signal. But one thing is certain. This is not just geological activity. The structure inside the object seemed organized, with magnetic patterns that repeated, suggesting design, not chaos. Think about it. A rock from another star system moving through space perhaps for millions of years, now showing signs of internal organization. It was as if 3 Atlas had a hidden engine, something that stored or regulated energy. The data confirmed that it was not a passive object floating through the void. It was something that behaved with purpose. Harvard researchers compared it to a kind of cosmic gyroscope, an ancient mechanism reacting to gravitational changes. But no known natural comet behaves this way. It was as if 3 Atlas were aware, reacting to its environment, adapting. And that was the question hovering over all NASA laboratories. What really was this object? Just a relic of nature, or a remnant of intelligence? When NASA analyzed the chemical data, they found something astonishing. The interior material was not made only of common elements like oxygen or carbon alone. It included traces of isotopes not commonly found in our solar system. In fact, some of them don't even appear in our galactic neighborhood. This suggests a possibility that makes the mind twist. 3 Atlas may have formed in a completely different environment, perhaps near the core of another galaxy, and has been traveling through interstellar space ever since. Think about it. Elements that don't exist here, compounds that defy the laws of chemistry we know, all packed inside an object that crossed billions of kilometers. But here is where it gets even more mysterious. As the object rotated and sunlight touched its surface, faint bursts of ionized gas escaped. Not randomly, but at regular intervals. These bursts seemed to adjust its movement slightly, like controlled puffs of propulsion. NASA data confirmed that these releases were symmetrical, perfectly timed, almost like a stabilization mechanism. In other words, 3 Atlas was not just adrift, it was maintaining balance, correcting its own trajectory, adapting to the environment around it. Harvard astronomers compared it to a kind of cosmic gyroscope, an ancient mechanism reacting to gravitational changes. But here's the truly alarming part. The rhythmic pulse of the core began to change as 3 Atlas got closer to the sun. The frequency increased, the intensity fluctuated. It was as if the object were responding to heat, to radiation. In other words, it reacts, it adapts, it learns. This behavior left the brightest researchers at NASA and Harvard stunned. A researcher noted that the electromagnetic rhythm doesn't match any known chemical or physical reaction. Another said, "If it's random, it's the most beautifully ordered randomness we've ever seen." Think about what that means. Perfect patterns, order emerging from chaos, a synchronization so precise it should be impossible in a natural object. Scientists began asking questions that no one wanted to ask out loud. What could be inside 3 Atlas? What kind of core emits rhythmic pulses, maintains stability, and adjusts its own path through space? One theory suggested it could contain natural superconducting materials, forged under unimaginable pressures during the explosion of a massive star. These materials could retain magnetic charge indefinitely, creating internal oscillations as they interact with solar radiation. But another theory, far bolder, proposed something infinitely more incredible. Some believed that 3 Atlas may not be a comet at all, but rather a fragment of a Dyson-type technology, a relic of an ancient civilization that once harvested energy directly from stars. In that case, the core could be an ancient energy cell, a cosmic battery, still faintly active after millions of years. If that were true, it would make 3 Atlas the oldest technological artifact in the known universe. Imagine that. Somewhere in the infinite past, a civilization, perhaps billions of years ahead of us, sent machines powered by starlight, each one traveling through galaxies. Some burned, some disappeared, but one, 3 Atlas, may have survived, silently drifting until it reached our small corner of space. And now, its pulses echoed through the universe, like an ancestral call, as if it were waiting, for billions of years, for someone to finally listen. Now, here's what makes this discovery truly disturbing. The latest NASA spectroscopic scans show that the internal temperature of the core did not cool uniformly. There were hotspots, small concentrated zones of heat that changed position slowly, like something moving beneath the surface. And when these hotspots aligned with the pulse cycle, energy emissions increased dramatically. Think of a heartbeat synchronized with breathing. That was exactly what scientists were seeing in the data. Patterns that shouldn't exist. Synchronization that should be impossible in an inanimate object. If that doesn't give you chills, it should. Because any one of these phenomena could be explained in isolation, perhaps as a rare geological anomaly, perhaps as a statistical fluke. But together, all of these behaviors happening simultaneously in a single object, either we were witnessing one of the most sophisticated natural phenomena ever recorded, or we were witnessing the remnants of something designed, perhaps long ago, by beings who understood the universe far better than we do. Harvard researchers made a comparison that rippled through every observatory in the world. They called it a signature of intelligent behavior, not technology necessarily, but intelligence. What that meant was that the object was not simply reacting mechanically to external forces. It was responding. It was adjusting. It was behaving as if it had some form of awareness of the environment around it. The data showed something even more disturbing. As 3 Atlas approached the sun, its emission patterns changed, not gradually, but in discrete jumps, like decisions being made, as if the object were calculating, analyzing, responding with purpose. A NASA researcher whispered to colleagues, "It's almost as if it knows we're watching." Nobody laughed, nobody dismissed it, because the data doesn't lie. The telescopes continued to capture more evidence. The gas bursts were not random. They responded to changes in solar radiation in real time. It was as if the object had sensors, as if it could feel the environment and adjust instantly. This is not passive behavior. This is active behavior, intelligent, controlled. Astronomers began to use language they had never used before. Words like purpose, intention, cognition. It was a line they shouldn't cross, but the data pulled them inexorably toward it. As hours passed, an uncomfortable truth crystallized in laboratories around the world. Everything they had learned about comets, about natural objects, about the cosmos itself, all of it was being questioned. The question that no one could shake was simple, but devastating. If 3 Atlas is a natural comet, why does it behave as if it were alive? And if it's not just a comet, if it's something more, something that was sent, something that was designed, then what does that mean for us? Who sent it? Where did it really come from? And most disturbing of all, how long has it been here, watching us, while we finally learned to see it? When spectroscopes began analyzing the chemical composition in detail, the results were even more disturbing. The interior material was not just different, it was impossible according to everything we know about cosmic chemistry. Beyond the strange isotopes, there were molecules that simply shouldn't exist together in natural conditions. There were crystalline structures with properties that defied the known laws of light refraction. There were layers of minerals that scientists still can't name properly because there's no parallel in any Earth laboratory. A NASA researcher, after examining the data for hours, turned to his colleagues and simply said, "This is not from our universe." It wasn't a joke, it was a scientific conclusion. The isotopic analysis revealed something that made every astrophysics laboratory in the world go silent. 3 Atlas contained isotopes that could only have been formed near the core of a massive star during the gravitational collapse that precedes a supernova. But there was a problem. These isotopes were too old, far too old, so old that they indicated the material had been created not in our galaxy, but in another, possibly Andromeda, or even farther. Scientists did the math, radiometric dating, beta decay, everything in their arsenal. The results pointed to an impossible age, billions of years beyond anything we had ever seen. But here's the truly scary part. Some of the materials, specifically certain stratified compounds in the core, showed signs of intentional processing, not natural formation. Processing, purification lines, structures organized in a way that would never occur accidentally. It was like finding electronic circuits buried in a layer of rock. You know immediately that something or someone put them there. Researchers compared with meteorite samples, with asteroid data, with everything we had cataloged. Nothing matched, nothing fit. And that's when the truth began to impose itself. Undeniable, frightening, inescapable. 3 Atlas was not a natural object in the traditional sense. Either it was a geological formation so rare that the probability of it existing was 1 in trillions, or it was something that was built, assembled, sent through space with purpose. Researchers began using a word they had avoided for decades: artifact. A technological artifact. Possibly the oldest battery in the galaxy. Possibly a solar sail from a civilization that hasn't existed for 1 billion years. Possibly a reconnaissance probe, programmed to explore solar systems and collect data. NASA convened emergency meetings. Harvard gathered its best astrophysicists. Government agencies began conversations in rooms where journalists were not allowed. Because if 3 Atlas was really a creation, a construction of an ancient civilization, then the universe was completely different from what we thought. We were not the only ones. We never were. And more than that, we had just made contact with something that was millions, perhaps billions of years old. Something that was still working. Something that was still sending messages through the cosmic void. And we, finally, were learning to listen to them. In closed rooms at universities and space agencies around the world, scientists began to whisper theories that, weeks before, would have been ridiculed. The first theory, the most conservative, is that 3 Atlas is simply an extraordinarily rare geological formation, a combination of cosmic events so unlikely that it could only have happened once in billions of years. Perhaps, some say, natural superconducting materials were indeed forged inside a collapsing star, creating magnetic oscillations that keep the object functioning for ages. It's theoretically possible, mathematically elegant, and profoundly, uncomfortably unlikely. But when you exhaust rational explanations, what's left? The second theory, and this is where things get really disturbing, is that 3 Atlas is really what some call a solar sail. A solar sail is a concept that even agencies like NASA have explored in their laboratories. It's a ship powered by stellar radiation, capable of traveling between solar systems over millions of years. It doesn't need fuel. It doesn't need a conventional engine. It just uses the pressure of photons from stars for propulsion. If 3 Atlas is a solar sail, one built by a civilization that died billions of years ago, then it's a machine at war with time. A mission that was launched so far in the past that its creators probably don't even exist anymore. But it continues. It keeps exploring. It keeps transmitting data. There is a third theory that, until recently, was considered pure science fiction. Some researchers began to consider the possibility that 3 Atlas is part of a Dyson structure, or more precisely, a fragment of one. A Dyson sphere is a theoretical concept where an advanced civilization builds a structure around a star to capture all of its energy. It's the signature of a Type 3 civilization, those who master the energy of an entire star. But what if 3 Atlas were a fragment? What if millions of years ago, a Dyson structure was destroyed in war, in natural disaster, in technological collapse, and its fragments were scattered across the galaxy? What you'd be seeing now would be a piece of ancient energy, still faintly functional, still pulsing, still alive with technology that lost its civilization. But there is a fourth theory that researchers whisper only in very low voices when they know no one is listening. What if 3 Atlas is not an ancient artifact, but a recent one? What if it's a probe ship, a messenger, sent by a civilization that is still alive, still exists somewhere we can't see or understand? What if that rhythmic pulse is not a dying battery, but a beacon, a signal sent through the cosmic void to say, I'm here, I'm alive, I'm coming? Harvard researchers did calculations on this. If a civilization wanted to explore other galaxies, wanted to send a message that could travel for billions of years while maintaining an active power source, it would do exactly that. Not a fragment, a probe, intelligent, adaptable, capable of learning about the environment it encounters. And here's the truly scary part. All of these theories, each one of them, lead to the same fundamental conclusion. We are not alone. We never were. And now, 3 Atlas is here, whispering its ancient secrets, waiting for us to finally understand. The question is no longer, is there life out there? The question now is, what does it want with us? It's important to take a pause here for a moment. If you grew up watching the first moon landing, you remember the wonder you felt, seeing humans touch another world for the first time. It was our first true encounter with the cosmic unknown. But now, with 3 Atlas, it seems as if the unknown is coming to us. NASA has already redirected several satellites and observatories to maintain continuous monitoring of this interstellar visitor. The Deep Space Network is locked onto its faint emissions, and the James Webb Telescope continues to analyze the spectral data, trying to understand the signature of energy pulsing from its core. And here's what they've discovered so far. The pulse rate changes slightly as 3 Atlas approaches the Sun, as if responding to heat or radiation. In other words, it reacts, it adapts, it learns. This behavior left the greatest minds at NASA and Harvard perplexed. A researcher observed that the electromagnetic rhythm doesn't match any known chemical or physical reaction. Another said, if it's random, it's the most beautifully ordered randomness we've ever seen. But they all reached the same conclusion. This is not just geological activity. It's not just a common comet. It's something fundamentally different from what we thought we knew about the universe. Think about what this really means. For almost all of recorded human history, we were alone with our questions, alone with our religions, our philosophies, our theories about our place in the cosmos. And now, suddenly we find ourselves confronted with evidence that something ancient, something intelligent, something perhaps sent specifically to find us, is here. Some may say it's a coincidence that 3 Atlas appeared just now, when we finally developed technology to detect it. But is it really coincidence, or is it something much deeper? Astronomers begin to ask themselves a disturbing question. What if it weren't chance? What if the universe, as some ancient philosophers suspected, has a way of communicating when we're ready to listen. What if 3 Atlas is precisely the kind of message a advanced civilization would send, knowing it would take billions of years to be received, trusting that when it finally arrived, the recipient would be wise enough to understand? It would be a perfect strategy. Send your messages through the cosmic void, let them travel for ages, and trust that when they arrive, the receiving civilization will have evolved enough to appreciate the meaning. And perhaps, just perhaps, that is the true hidden gift inside 3 Atlas. Not technology we can steal, not secrets we can exploit, but a truth, humble, profound, transformative. The truth that we are not alone, that the universe is alive, that intelligence, consciousness, structure, these are not exceptions, but part of the very nature of reality. That is the gift that 3 Atlas brings. And perhaps, just perhaps, that knowledge is all we really needed. You made it this far, and that means something. It means you're someone who still looks at the sky with wonder, someone who still asks the questions that really matter. So, here's what I ask of you, and it's important. First, subscribe to this channel, because we're going to keep tracking the discoveries about 3 Atlas. And you don't want to miss any updates when the final truth is revealed, when that object passes by the sun and its outer layers begin to melt, exposed to extreme heat. We'll finally know what's inside, and you want to be here when that happens. Second, like this video. It's not just an empty click, it's a signal to the algorithm that you want more content like this. More exploration of real cosmic mysteries, more conversations about the big questions that define our existence, like this, and you help spread this message to other people who also deserve to know these truths. And third, share this video with someone who still looks at the sky with wonder, someone who asks questions, someone who isn't afraid to question the status quo. Because when more people understand that we're living in a historic moment, when humanity finally finds proof that we're not alone, the world changes, and it changes for the better. Leave in the comments below. Do you believe 3 Atlas is a natural phenomenon or a fragment of something intelligent, something greater? Don't be afraid to share your theory. Because the greatest scientific advances in history began with someone saying, "What if it were like this?" We are writing history at this moment, and your voice matters.